I'm Irene Manzini
I
Ceinar.
am Chiara Tagliaro.
I'm 29 years
I'm
old.
33 years old.
I'm from Italy, I was born in Reggio Emilia, that is a city in the Emilia-Romagna region.
I'm from Verona. Originally, I was born there, the city of Romeo and Juliet. And I moved to Milan when I started the university, so about 13 years ago.
My background it is in architecture. I studied 5 years at the Politecnico of Milan in Italy, and then I did a Master of Research at the Barlow School of Planning in the University College London.
I am an architect by education. I started working in the real estate management field right after the master's graduation that I got from Politecnico di Milano. And since then, have been working in the same field, especially with a focus on workplace management.
Now I'm a PhD student at the Barlow School of Architecture at the UCL University College London, and my PhD is on architectural space and computation within the space syntax department.
At the moment, I am a postdoctoral researcher in the real estate center of the Department of Architecture, Built Environment and Construction Engineering at Politecnico di Milano.
I've been involved in the cost action because this specific cost action is strongly related to my PhD topic on new workspaces and the impact in terms of urban development. I had the chance to meet Ilaria Mariotti, that is the chair of this specific action, and she is also my external supervisor for a visiting research period at Politecnico of Milano.
I was a secondary proposer in this cost action. Ilaria Mariotti is an associate professor in a different department here at Politecnico, so we got to know each other because we are both interested in the dynamics that revolve around workplaces and new ways of working. And so that's how we got in touch, and she kindly invited me to join her exciting cost action.
I apply for the short-term scientific missions because I'm developing a research on a comparative case study between London and Milan. So my interest was to spend a bit of time in Milan and to have a proper abroad fieldwork.
Why I applied? I thought that a short-term scientific mission would be a great opportunity to start contributing more in practical terms in the deliverables that were designed for the cost action. One of them is that of building up a taxonomy of new working spaces and to start investigating more in-depth differences and similarities across different countries and also undertake some field work.
I visited the Politecnico of Milano, specifically the DASTO, Department of Architecture and Urban Studies, and I've been hosted by Ilaria Mariotti, who was my external supervisor during this visiting period, and she's lead to the Department of Urban Planning and Policy Design. I flew from London to Milan in the past months. Specifically, my period was from February to April 2020.
I went to Cornell University. I flew to Ithaca, New York State. Almost nobody knows where it is. It is in upstate New York, as they call it, closer to the Finger Lakes. I was hosted by Professor Ying Hua. She's an associate professor, architect as well, in the College of Human Ecology, Department of Design and Environmental Analysis. and she coordinates the research group that is called the International Workplace Studies Program.
Objectives for my STSM period are reframing my PhD research questions and objective, open up perspective on the topic in the Italian context, because I want to do a comparative case study between London and Milan. I'm also very interested in the perspective on co-working spaces in Europe. In this specific period, something that has been very relevant has been the exploration of COVID-19 effects on co-working economy, and also participating in writing academics paper involving the initial phase of data collection and data processing of my PhD.
So the objectives of my short-term scientific mission were to define the key characteristics of co-working spaces in Italy and in the USA, and to compare them in order to figure out pros and cons, let's say, of the two different models. Then to explore how co-working spaces expand in the countries in terms of spreading out in urban environments, but also in peripheral environments, in villages and towns that could be even far from the city centers where co-working spaces usually develop, at least in Europe. So to understand main location patterns and aggregation trends. Then I aimed at developing a shared comparative perspective on co-working spaces, putting this information together with that collected also by my STSM colleague, and to find out finally some policy measures that were developed in the two countries to favor co-working spaces, and to identify key strategies for co-working spaces growth, especially after the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I developed a database both for London and Milan related to co-working spaces. I also started to do some location mapping and typology comparison through GIS systems. And also I started doing some pilot interviews for the pilot case study. So far I collected data about 312 co-working spaces in London and 160 co-working spaces in Milan. Those data are coming from different databases and different previous research. I just want to introduce the geographical distribution of co-working spaces in London. So I did a geospatial mapping, and as you can see, the majority of them is clusterized around the Hackney area. The case of Milan, it's totally different. So during the period I discovered that basically there are some different clusters of co-working spaces in Milan. During my STSM, I also participated to the third edition of the summer school on workplace management. And specifically my point of view, my perspective was about to uncover the local co-working spaces and to see if existing clusters of services can be enhanced. And we have done a comparison between London and Milan, so we have tried to see which are the co-location factors that links co-working spaces and the creative industries. So we have some highlights from the research that's still ongoing.
So what did I do? I first started by developing a database, both for the big cities of New York City and Milan, and for the small town of Ithaca. For the big cities, I mainly used the coworker.com website, which collects a lot of co-working spaces all over the world. But for the specific case of Milan, we were lucky enough to can use some work that was previously done by our co-section colleagues with a FARB project. And for the city of Ithaca instead, I started with coworker.com, and then I contacted the different co-working spaces and asked them by word of mouth if they could mention or if they knew any other new working spaces more in general in the area. So not just limiting to co-working spaces, but also maker spaces and incubators, for instance. Subsequently, I performed together with my colleagues both at Cornell University and at Politecnico di Milano a location mapping and a typology comparison by applying GIS mapping and descriptive statistics. So some numbers, in the end, the database of new working spaces basically consisted of 262 co-working spaces plus only 2 maker spaces. And the the database of Milan instead counts 160 co-working spaces, as my colleague can confirm. And finally, I interviewed all the co-working space managers in Ithaca, and I asked them how they had been dealing with the COVID-19 emergency and how their co-workers reacted to this outbreak. I asked them what future perspectives for new working spaces they were seeing for a small town like Ithaca. And I discussed with them about policy proposals for public actors, especially at local and national level.
The relevance to the cost action has been the contribution to the working group 1 related to taxonomy. Also the knowledge exchange between the Department of Architecture and Urban Studies of the Politecnico of Milan and the Barlow School, the University College London. So the partnership between the two universities is something really relevant for the cost action. I'm also been able to have relationship with the European Co-working Assembly UK. I've been involved in several publications and conferences. So I also participated in the Workspace Management Summer School 2020, who has been organized by Politecnico and the ABC department, and specifically Chiara Tagliaro, who is the other grantee of this STSM. She was organizing this summer school, so I have been very pleased to work with them and to participate in the summer school. Then I also been involved in the Milano Collabora projects with the support of the Municipality of Milan and together with some colleagues of the Università Cattolica in Milan. And I've been one of the organizers of the Milano Collabora webinars, where we were basically interviews some guests relating to the current situation of co-working spaces in pandemic time.
I contributed to the work package 1 or working group 1 that was dedicated to developing a taxonomy of new working spaces. I established new relationships with the International Workplace Studies program at the Design and Environmental Analysis Department in Ithaca, Cornell University. I organized a summer school on workplace management in July 2020 that Irene joined. I participated in the Milano Collabora webinars, and in particular I hosted a webinar devoted to real estate operators and their approach to co-working spaces and new working spaces in the future. And I participated in other dissemination activities.
Those are the scientific contributions I've been working. In particular, this one is the collocation of co-working spaces related to cultural and creative industries. I've been the chance to work with Chiara Tagliaro, the other grantee of this short scientific mission, together with another colleague of ours, Alessandra Migliore, from Politecnico of Milano.
Among the scientific contributions that I produced, there is the presentation at the Associazione Italiana di Scienze Regionali conference in September 2020. I also wrote together with Irene Manzini Ceinar and Alessandra Migliore a book chapter entitled Beyond Co-working, From Flexible to Hybrid Spaces. And I also submitted, again together with Irene and this Alessandra, our colleague, a paper entitled The Co-working Project, A Hybrid Process.
Next activities I'm planning to do are rephrase and reframe as well my research question of my PhD research in order to study more in detail and more focus the local co-working spaces instead of having a general perspective on the topic. And then I'm also planning to contribute to the working group 2 within the cost action. The aim of the working group 2 is to define an atlas of the best practice in terms of workplaces.
I'm planning on contributing also to the next to the forthcoming work packages 2 and 3. I will also take the opportunity of the international network that was created to participate to some grant proposals. We already started collaborating on several different streams with Ilaria Mariotti and some other colleagues.
COVID-19 has really challenged our research and also the STSM period. And in my specific case, I was traveling from London to Milan, and I was not able to work in the department at the Politecnico of Milano. So in my case, I've been obliged in a way to stay at home and working from home. I hadn't the chance to make connections, and also I was really struggling to basically understand how the different dynamics in the department works.
How COVID-19 affected my STSM. I left Italy just in time to not be locked down here. So I was in the US when my short-term scientific mission was supposed to start, and I was lucky enough to, of course, have accommodation and internet connection and everything I needed to spend some time there, but safe and sound. And of course, my journey back to Italy was a little bit cumbersome.
To future STSM grantees, I really wish to make the most of your visiting period and really enjoy it because it's a great opportunity, and you have the chance to spend a bit of time in another university, and you have the chance to study in different departments and think about how future relationship between other members, other grantees can work.
This is a great experience. It's gonna be fantastic for your future also career opportunities. It will give you the chance to expand your horizons, to meet a lot of new wonderful people, and to advance research through international collaboration.
Ciao Chiara!
Bye, Ire! Bye!